Right lads, another little 1 gallon batch. I'm just in the process of using it's Brew's friend. I know the other week I said I'd had a little bit of trouble finding a good program for changing batch sizes from a full size 5 gallon batch down to a gallon batch. But Brew's friend seems to be the best I've found so far. So if there's any better ones out there, lads, just leave a little comment when we're finished doing this. So, recipe. It is the chocolate mocha. So I've got Greenville to start off with. We've got 1.09 kgs of Marisota, 70 grams of crystal, the medium crystal, 70 grams of the chocolate, 70 grams of flake wheat, 110 grams of the roasted barley, which I've got already weighed out in bowls, sorted, and I'm just bringing the old water up in me pressure cooker. I haven't as yet made a smaller bag, so anybody saw the last one, yes, I'm using the really big bag again. It worked. It wasn't the best, but it did work, so we'll have a quick look. The other thing is, because I work in Celsius, I don't really use Imperial for anything, but I was thinking with Fahrenheit you've got the actual temperatures, there's small gaps between them, because to be honest, the moment it's alright, it does its job, but I just didn't know if it was easier to work in Fahrenheit because of the breakdown. So that's just about, we need to get this up to about 72, 70, 73, which we're then just a little bit over actually. We'll lift that off. I'll start getting the grain bag sorted out. But yeah, I'm looking for about 70, 73, something like that. And then it'll be grains in. That should bring it down to about 66. The temperatures I'm going to be using is what I've been calling football temperatures, because I'll be mashing it 66, which was a good football year in England, and when I raise the temperature up, I'll be raising it up to 73, which, because I live in Sunderland, was another good year, because 73 was the year Sunderland won the FA Cup. So if I mention the words football temperatures, that's what I'm talking about. It's 66 degrees mash, 73 degrees for the second rest. Right. So, in goes the grain bills. Normally, if I'm doing the if I've got my big grain pot out and I'm doing it outside, I do tend to put them in one type of grain at a time. And then the likes of the Marisota, which might be maybe 5 kilos, 6 kilos, I put them in 2 kilo lumps, because I have done it before where the first one I did, I just had it all in one big bucket and tipped it all in, and I just couldn't stir it up. I couldn't. It took ages and ages and ages to get there, to actually get the mash in without it being lumpy. And another thing you'll find, or I've just noticed, is if your grain's a bit too fine, or you've got quite a bit of powder like you've got at the bottoms of your bags, you'll find that will lump and you'll get dough balls, where if it's a little bit more coarse, that doesn't seem to be as problematic. That one there was the bottom of a bag of Marisota, so it was a bit lumpy. Wow, the smell of this. That's the. I didn't use any roasted barley in the last one, and that's what was on the top of that one, was the roasted barley, which is smelling lovely. But always make sure you get rid of all your dough balls. I have heard it isn't too much of a problem in boiling the bag, because you've got a much thinner mash, because we use almost the whole of your batch water in your mash. So if you're doing it, I work on, if I'm doing like this gallon batch, I've got just over a gallon of water in here, and I've got a gallon of water, or just under a gallon of water it'll be in that kettle. Basically it works out that I'll have about 6 gallons. And then I've got enough, because I will rinse these grains off and do a bit of a sparge. It's the same as when I use the big boil pot. If I've got 36 litres going in, I'll always keep a couple of litres out just to sparge. I did recirculate a little bit, and at the moment, because I haven't got a bench to work on, it's a bit of a mess on, because the tap on the actual brew pot's only about maybe, I don't know, 10 centimetres off the floor, which is a bit of a pain. So, any case, I'm going to get cracked on and get this lumps knocked out of this mash. I'll see you in a bit. Right lads, we've got the lid back on. This is all I'm using for my gallon batches, the pressure cooker, because it's got a sealable lid and it does keep the heating reasonably well. I normally give it half an hour, and then I'll check the temperature on it again. If it's starting to drop, I just put it back on the heat. But don't put it back on the heat and turn your heat on full. You will stick your bag to the bottom of your pot. It's a strict guarantee, because there isn't a lot of room, so I can't, like in my boiled pot, I just keep the bag off where my element is, so I don't have that problem. But in this, with it being a nylon bag, a bought crappy nylon bag, it just rests on the bottom of the pan, so it will just stick and melt. The bags I use on the big brew pot, I make myself. They're made out of muslin, so don't know if anybody's interested, because I have looked at buying bags, and I don't like spending lots of money on my brew kit. I primarily homebrew because it's cheap, hence why my big brew pot and everything I did for less than 20 quid. So I don't spend a lot of money on my brewing. So I tend to make as much as I can. So yeah, making them isn't a problem at all. They really are quite easy to make. But if anybody's interested, anybody wants to watch or wants any information on how to make them, because you do have to double seam them, and there is a couple of different types of stitch. You don't want to use straight stitch, and you do want to use like a zigzag or castle size stitch, stuff like that, because obviously at times you're going to be lifting quite heavy weights out. You normally work on whatever your weight of your dry grain bill is. It'll probably be that plus a half, maybe that plus just over a half once it gets wet. So a 7 kilo grain bill can be, well, I had the last one I did, the big one I did outside, was a 7 kilo, and that was almost double by the time it came out once it was full of water. But that did have quite a bit of weight in it. So I don't know, I think the weight might hold a little bit more water. Whatever it is, it was heavy, because I did, again, if you look through my videos, there's one there about the brew pot, and it's I made a plastic liner. It's an old fermenting bucket to go inside, so I can lift it out, and the weight will actually be in the plastic of the bucket, because that was the other fear, is if your stitching comes away, or if anything happens and you melt a hole in your bag, how do you get your water off your grain? It really isn't going to be, it's not going to be easy, put it that way, and it's just going to be such a big problem. So if it's easier to prevent it than trying to fix it once you've done it. There's a couple of different ideas or different ways of doing it. But if anybody wants to see how to make a brew bag, just And once you know how to make them, it doesn't matter what size kettle you want to make. You can make a brew pot out of a 22 litre keg with 3 200 watt elements in, and that's 176 pints full. So your actual pre-mash water can be up to about 20 gallon of water. So, but if so you can make on that size. So if anyone's interested, just put a little message on here, and I'll do one. Right, I'm gonna go and watch a bit more fun. See you in a bit. Right then, lads, that's the hour up, or just shy of an hour, because it's going to take a little while to get these out. I'm just taking the final temperature so I can let you know. And that I never put it back on the heat. It was just left with the pressure cooker lid on. And she is finally stops. $65.8. So that's about as good as I'm ever going to get for keeping the same temperature. And I said before about raising the temperature up for the second part, because I haven't got any room in this pan, and I'm a little concerned about trying to raise the temperature up while the grain bag's touching the bottom of the pan. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sparge off with some hot water, which will be, well, that's just boiled, so that'll probably be, by the time I get around to using it, still nice and hot. It's just to raise the temperature in your mash up and get different enzymes to work. I'm not going to attempt to go into and explain it while I'm doing this, because two major reasons. One, it's quite a complex thing to explain, and two, I don't fully understand it myself. But if you go on YouTube and just put in mash temps, the first one you'll come across, I can't remember off the top of my head, is a bloke who explains it in quite a lot of detail. He actually does 3 videos about mashing, but he explains about what temperatures you get what sugars out, so it's well worth everybody going across and having a quick look at that. This is extremely hot, as I said, it's 66. You might need gloves to do it. I was a chef for 11 years, so to be honest, my hands are like asbestos, so I don't have that problem. And all I'm doing is going to get as much liquid out as I can, put it in the bowl, and then I'll sparge off in the bowl. Pop that across and open that up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually set this on to heat up, because the next process is we're going to need it at a roll and boil. Give us 1 second, lads. Sorry, I'd forgot with this stove top, if you've got a pan resting on it, it won't actually turn it on. Right, so back to this grain. So all I do is I open out the bag just a little bit, just enough so you can get at your grain. Press that back down, because obviously it'll coat up where you've been twisting and messing around. Then just take your boiled water and just run it in, just a little bit at a time. You don't need to go mental with it. And remember, don't put more in than the size of your bowl, which yes, I have done. And then this is another one. Some people say you shouldn't stir this. Some people say it doesn't do anything. The worry is you might get some tannins out, which is an off flavour that you don't want. So, see again, if this bag had been a bit smaller, this job would be so much easier. But again, I just haven't got round to making a brew bag the right size. But you see the colour of that coming out of there? It's basically all asparges is you're just washing residual sugars out. It's a little bit more difficult in brewing the bag compared to use a mash tun, because obviously with a mash tun you would just put your water back in, give it a stir around, bang the lid back on, leave it for 10 minutes, then run it out again. Well, with the bag, it's obviously the opening of the bag, the shutting of the bag. Hopefully with the other system, with the bucket in that I've got, when I get that up and running, that should save a lot of problems and make things a little bit easier, because I'll just put one bucket inside another and then run the boiling water so it'll just run straight through the grain bill. But I'll probably do a video of me doing that. Right. I'll pull that across. A little bit. This time I'm just not going to open the bag, I'll leave the bag shut, because this bit, what I'm doing now, is going to help wash the bag off. And to be honest, I don't want to be putting too much water through these grains. I'll just little up and down motions just to try and wash the rest off. And then pop that into there. And then all we're going to do is now try and squeeze this bag out without burning myself. Do. There we go. That'll do, I'm not worried about. There's a little bit left in. And all I'll do is just leave that out of the way. Wash my spoon off, because obviously my spoon's got grains on which I don't want to get into my brew pot. Yeah, just give that a little stir around. As you can see, that is pretty much as black as it's going to be. So, right, next stage, hops. This recipe, I'm only going to use a bittering hop. The bittering hop I'm using is Northern Brewer. It is a whole leaf hop. I don't use hop pellets, I only ever use leaf hops. This is a stopper. Simple as. It saves all this mess on of getting stuff stuck and trying to siphon stuff out. And obviously this hasn't got a tap on or anything, but auto siphons don't like hops, they just get jammed up with them and then you break them trying to fix them and trying to get them clean and stuff. So all I do is buy stockings and cut them into lengths. That was the foot end. The next bit will have 2 knots on it, the bit after that will have 2 knots on it. Hops are in them. You can even have them with all your additions and just have them laid out ready. So that's, it's supposed to be, by the conversion, 10.87 grams. Because I don't have gold scales, I just use normal scales, that's 11 grams. And if the 0.13 of a gram really affects it that much, well, whoa, that's going to be a great problem. The other thing I've just found out is I thought I still had some rehydrated yeast, because I normally do a demi-john full at a time, keep it in the fridge. And I've gone to the fridge and I have a funny feeling the missus has thrown it out. So I'm just going to use, it's a yeast off a kit, and it's the Better Brew mild yeast, mild ale it'll do. It'll be absolutely fine for this 1 gallon. Obviously, I won't be pitching 10 grams of yeast into a 1 gallon batch, mainly because you will give it loads of strange yeasty flavours, which in some beers you want. Some beers you want the yeast flavours to be there. That's what does them, you know, like Hefeweizens and stuff like that. The in the Belgian wheat beers and stuff, that's that banana flavour that you get. That's made by the yeast. But you don't want that in, or I don't want that in this stout. The only other flavour that's going to go into this, because obviously I've got the chocolate in there, there'll be a little bit of coffee flavouring just off the roasted barley, is Camp Coffee. The original batch had, this is 241ml bottle. I don't know why it's 241ml bottle, but it is. It had a full bottle of that in for 5 litres. For 5 gallons, sorry. So it's getting a fifth of that, which is 48ml into that batch, which I'll put in as a late addition, like for the last 10 minutes. So, anyways, I'm going to go and let this come up to the boil. I'll speak to you in a bit. Right then, so now she's just come up to the boil. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. Right? We have got to be a little bit careful because she might boil over. So if she starts to boil up a bit high, you can just knock her back with a spoon. But she seems to be just about to come over, so I'll just lift her off a second. Just have to put you back down while I try and... Back on the board. Right, sorry, trying to hold that and knock this back is not easy. Some people do have a little thing of spray water, just spray that in. So once your hot break comes up, and then it'll just, as I said, that would have came over, that's why I just had to lift it off a little bit. But you can, as I said, you can just, if you just take your spoon round and knock it back with a spoon, it will go back a little bit. See, I don't have this problem with the big boil kettle because I never have that much water in it, if I would just over half filled. So, that's boiling. Bag of hops in. I don't push them to the bottom, I just push them in so that they basically all get wet. So there we go, we'll just leave that on a nice rolling boil. I'll give you a quick look now, she's calmed down and I'm going to try and boil over again. There she is there. And she will just boil like that. Might just turn that down just a little bit because that is a little bit on the vigorous side. Basically, what you've got to remember is all the time that's boiling, you're boiling away liquid. So the more you boil it, the less liquid you're going to have to go in your fermenter. You can then top it up with water to bring it back up if your volumes aren't right. You can also, what you've got to be careful of, boiling it hard will caramelise your wort. So if you've got, say if you're doing a smash beer and it's very pale, going to be very straw-like, and you want to put a bit of colour into it, take some of it out, a third of it, stick it in a pan and boil it, and boil it, and boil it. Don't use any hops in that bit, just boil that down until it starts, it'll change colour and it'll start getting a bit thick, and then pour that back in with the rest, and that's basically caramelisation of wort. Have I done it? No. Have I watched people do it on the internet? Yes. See, because of YouTube, you don't have to do everything. You can watch other people make mistakes and don't do it. Hopefully that's why people are watching my videos, because so far I've made a few mistakes, and hopefully by me making mistakes I'm helping you not make mistakes. So, now that's calmed down a bit, I'm going to turn it back up a little bit, just to get her back. She's still rolling, boiling, but I want it a little bit more vigorous than that. And you can mess around, adjust it. So, that's a 60-minute boil. So, I shall see you in 60 minutes. The only thing I'll have ready before I put the camera back on is I'm going to fill the sink full of cold water, because I'm going to wort chiller, and if I had a wort chiller it wouldn't be big enough to fit in this pan. All I'll do is I'll lift this pan and stand it in a sink full of cold water, and that'll get this temperature down, which getting it cold, the quicker you get it cold, the better it is for clearing, supposedly. So, I'll see you in 60 minutes when that boil finishes. One other quick little thing to mention, iodine tests. I don't have iodine. Iodine's not as easily available as it used to. You used to be able to buy it at most chemists. Lots of chemists won't sell it now, and you buy it over the internet again, it's shipping and stuff like that. It does come in really handy. There is other ways of doing it though. Everybody knows what sweet tastes like. That's all you're looking for. So get a little bit of water before you put it on to boil, on a spoon, and just taste it. Like when you do your mash, just dump your mash, just pull it back to one side, just get a bit on a teaspoon and taste it. If it tastes sweet, you've converted it into sugar. Yes, they might be unfermentable sugars, but it's still sugar. An iodine test won't tell you the difference between fermentable and unfermentable sugars. It'll just tell you it's sugar, not starch. And if you're not sure the difference between sugar and starch, cut a potato in half and lick it. That's starch. Get a teaspoon of sugar, put it in your mouth. That's sugar. That's the difference. And believe us, if there's that conversion, you will be able to taste that is starch and not sugar, because it will not be sweet and it tastes awful. So, but that's all you really need to do. That is the easiest way to do it, is a little bit on a teaspoon and taste it. So, it works for me, that'll do. Right, the boil's still ongoing. She's still got a little over half an hour to go. So I'm just going to go and watch a bit more fun. So, see you in a bit, lads. Right, so that's the boil over with. It's now in a, just move it around. There we go. Just in a kitchen sink full of water. I have taken a gravity reading. Again, remember, when you take gravity readings, you have to cool the water down. If your water's still hot, your reading isn't correct. And it'll also melts the glue inside of them, supposedly. I didn't know this. Again, this was I put a video up doing it, and it was still hot. And I got told straight away not to do that, so I'm just adding that into this video as well, let you know. Basically, my video's idea is for people who've never brewed, because I'm just new to this. And I'm kind of putting the things in that I wasn't sure about, the stuff that I've had to troll around on the internet and look around to find out what I can actually find for the information. So, I'm just going to grab that gravity rating, which it's about 62, which is a bit higher than I was expecting, but that's not a problem, because all I'll do is when I'm getting into the demijohn, is once it's cooled down I'll put it in, and then I'll pitch me yeast like when it's like that, probably only be up to here, and then once it's had its mental bit and try to pop out the top and going crazy, then what I'll do is then I'll just top it up to about here, so I will get a full demijohn. Because if I fill it up to here and put the yeast in, that bit there will end up on the floor outside the demijohn. Believe it, because I've already done that one before. So basically that's it now. There's not a lot I can do. What this will be though is this will probably be the next part of this video will probably be on next week's Homebrew Wednesday, because well, it's Wednesday today, so that gives it a week in the fermenter. So I think it is. So that's it for the time being, and I'm not going to bother you now to pitch yeast. Make sure you sanitise around the top of here and put your dry yeast in. As I said, I haven't got any rehydrated, and it'll be fine for this, just a bit of dry yeast. So, I'll see you next Wednesday. See you in a bit. Right then, so that is the demijohn with that brew in. If you can't see inside, that's a hydrometer reader. When they're on cheap at Wilkinson's, I just buy a couple, and when I do a brew I just drop one in. It saves messing around, putting one in, taking it out, cleaning it, sanitising it, just to pop it back in again to check it another day. So I just drop one in, leave it in, so then all I have to do is just go and have a look. I'll just turn the camera on, give us a second. So I checked the numbers on that, and actually on the brewer's friend I was supposed to get 1061, and that's 1062, so that's close I'm going to get. This here is a smock hood. You would just normally pull it over your head. these fit perfectly over a demijohn. So what I do with them, because I've got an electric heater for me, for like if I'm using a full size fermenting vessel, I've got an electric brew heater that goes inside. It's like you can use one of a fish tank. Will do exactly the same thing. Basically, all it does is it goes inside the beer, or well, inside the water, keeps the beer at a temperature you particularly want. For some yeasts, you want low temperature. For this one, I'm going to clear what it is, so it'll be at about 20. That's what it is at the moment, 20. It'll go in there, and that wall, the other side of that wall, is a big cupboard. It's between my kitchen and my living room. Both of them, the walls, have both got 6 foot long double skin radiators on. So that cupboard stays pretty much the same temperature all year round, because it's right in the middle of the house. So that's all I'll do with that. Wrap it up, it'll stand in the back of that cupboard. And to be honest, I won't do anything, I won't touch it, I won't move it. I'll probably, later on today, if it hasn't started bubbling, if I haven't seen any bubbles going, I'll have a look at it just to see what's happening, if anything's happening at all. But everything I should be able to see will be going on inside of that bubbling. If it's going mental and it's pushing through, every second it's bubbling and bubbling and bubbling, then I'll have to do a little bit of an add-on video to show you what a blow-off tube is, which is basically the easiest way for it. It's a pipe instead of that. It's a pipe that comes off and goes into a bottle with a little bit of water in. So then if it does get too vigorous, it'll come out and go down the tube and into a bottle or whatever vessel you want to use, instead of just going out and going all over the floor. But I'll touch on that if I have to. Otherwise, you'll just have to look for blow-off tube or blowout tube on the internet. On YouTube, there's loads of lads will have done them. I'm guaranteed there'll be loads out there. So I hope it's been helpful for people. As I said, this system I've done today is basic, standard brew in a bag. It makes no difference if you're making 1 gallon or if you're going to do it in your garage and put a winch and pulley system up and do 40 gallon. It makes no difference whatsoever. As long as you can physically get that bag out of that pot, you can make that pot as big as you want to make that pot. Some lads, I've seen the setups, and they'll have a block and tackle pulley in like a joist in a garage, and they'll lift it using that, because they're doing big batches like that with so much grain in. But this is the basic method for what you need. Anything you're not sure of, you know, put a comment in. I'll get back in touch with you. There's also on Facebook, there's the Brew in a Bag little group of us, which isn't that little, I don't think. Get on there, loads of lads on there, loads of information. And remember, Brew in a Bag is all grain. Don't care what anybody else says about it. If it hasn't got nothing in but grains, it's all grain. You don't need a mash tun to be doing all grain. Right, and I'll see you on Wednesday with this and how it's gone. Cheers lads, in a bit.